Hello, welcome to First Thoughts. I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
And I'm Isabel Gonzalez.
And today we are discussing Five Nights at Freddy's, the latest video game adaptation. Colossal hit, surprisingly. Summing up a lot of very complex lore into a film that doesn't use most of it, thank God. Into I don't know really what this is going to be. Is this going to be considered a hit? Is this going to start a franchise? Is this going to be a cult classic? I really have no idea. This is one of the weirdest, like, how the hell did this happen kind of movies I've ever seen. So I had no intention to watch this until you approached me about doing a First Thoughts because you were super excited about this. So I'm going to give you the floor. What did you think?
So I am very much torn into two pieces. There is Five Nights at Freddy's fan Isabel thoughts, and then there is like just moviegoer Isabel thoughts. Five Nights at Freddy's fan overall really liked it. I had some problems, not like because it like deviated from the source material, because for anybody listening that's familiar with the Five Nights at Freddy's lore, it's insane. It's weird. It's crazy. I knew being a PG-13 movie, they were not going to be able to go into a lot of it. I also knew because of how complex it was, it's not going to be something that translates well onto screen. But like the visualization, mainly the visual aspects of the game being brought on the screen, I was so excited. It was so cool seeing it. Fan, just like not fan, but just like I'm just gonna go see like this interesting movie. Oh, that seems weird. Like, is this like a Chuck E. Cheese horror B movie thing? The writing was awful. I thought about it. I watched it. I was there in theaters. I was there surrounded by people like 10 years younger than me and my friends, my best friend out here, Sydney. And yeah, I'm like, wow, we're like literally the oldest people in this theater, aside from our friend who came with us, who's 10 years older than us. So it's like, oh my God. But Sydney and I, like, we love this thing, but everybody in that theater pretty much knew what was going on. So for a majority of the audience, it was great. But taking that brain out and putting it in somebody that doesn't know, yeah, I imagine they don't like this movie. But I can see it becoming, I don't know, because I know we've talked about cult classics before and how stuff becomes a cult classic. I don't It was not the worst movie I've ever seen. Like, going off of like, I'm not thinking about like like Five Nights at Freddy's Markiplier by 7, like just like, oh, like weird, it wasn't the worst thing I've seen. I'm gonna watch it again actually this week because one of our friends was in town. So we're not gonna go. I don't think we're gonna go see it in theaters. We're gonna watch it on Peacock, but I'm excited to see how my opinions on it change. But right now, fan Isabel loved it. Movie goer Isabel was like, that writing was crap. But I didn't hate it. Yeah.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. I also did not hate it. And yeah, it is if you don't want to go pay movie ticket prices to see this, it is streaming on Peacock. So feel free to watch it there. That's what I did because no. But yeah,
That was a
this
good move.
yeah, I think so. So first, I'm somebody who is completely unfamiliar with the lore of this game. I remember hearing about Five Nights at Freddy's over the years and just thinking like, oh, okay, and then not thinking about it again until like one of my cousins was like, I'm playing this game, and I thought like, oh, there's a bear and there's like monitors, and yeah, I really have not thought about this ever. Uh, and then you sent me the lore video to try. You sent like a 10-minute sum up of this lore, which is frankly impossible. There's so much. It's for a video, like an indie game about like a security guard monitoring the security cameras of an old pizza place and like the animatronic dudes are coming to life. That sounds simple enough, but the freaking iceberg that this thing has become is insane. And there's no way any of that was going to make it into film because the thing about adapting, especially video games, to movies is you have to basically streamline it for the widest audience possible. You can't just target the fans of the game. You have to, you got to get other people in the seats. So I thought the lore of the movie made sense. I thought it was palatable. I understood what was going on. So I think props to that. You know, props to whittling it down to its basest form and giving the film audience a not great, but a, you know, serviceable plot.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's like you were saying, this is a very it's a complex thing. For those who are unaware, I'm going to explain it. Not like the 2 hour thing because there's a lot. Pretty much like the first game was made by a guy named Scott Cawthon, and it was like his last ditch effort to basically come up with like a video game because he actually was a video game developer. A lot of the stuff that he came up with was not good. It wasn't received well, and it was also Christian based. He's very much a religious guy, so all the stuff he was making was very like Jesus-y Christian, and they weren't popular. So he was like, okay, whatever, I'll come up with this one thing. Apparently, the story goes he had a dream where I think Bonnie, the bunny, was in his dream, and he was like, what the actual hell was that? He made it into a point and click horror game, which you're sitting in a little security thing. The only movement that you have as the gamer is to move like your visual left or right, and you just click things, and you have to survive for however long. It's called Five Nights at Freddy's, but each game actually has 7 nights. If you beat the first five, then you get 2 bonus nights, and those nights give you some more. So the first one, there's like no lore in it at all. It was literally just like, here's like cool horror game. It blew up because Markiplier played it, which is he's the whole reason Markiplier is popular is because he played Five Nights at Freddy's, and the whole reason Five Nights at Freddy's is as popular as it is because Markiplier played it. Like they helped each other, like go up. So then the second one that was created, they added more lore to it. That's kind of what gave you more backstory to what you were hearing. Because in the first one, you're getting some little bits and pieces of the story. It's nothing crazy, but it's just like, oh, like weird pizzaplex. These, crazy animatronics come to life. They might think that you're a person. They're gonna try and stuff you in the suit. Some like kids have disappeared here, etc. And that's just as deep as it goes into. But you learn throughout all the games that 5 kids disappeared from this restaurant. They were murdered brutally by the guy who created it, and their bodies were like stuffed into suits, and then they inhabit those suits. And throughout the games, they're trying to kill you because they're looking for the guy that killed them, and they're mistaking him for you or you for him, I guess. You get more deep into it because other kids were killed. The guy who like does all that, he's pretty much immortal for the most part. They had a really good wrap up of the whole like game. I think in the 7th game, because there's a total of let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now there are a total of 10 games. Game 7 wrapped it up really nicely. It was good. It was like perfect. Blah. And then Scott stepped down as like the head of everything, and then the new company that took over was like, we're gonna make 2 more games, and the last one that came out was like really glitchy. And apparently there's a second part coming out in December of this year. I didn't know that. But yeah, it's making that accessible to people that have never heard of it before is a little weird because that wasn't even at all like Connor said. It's like it's an iceberg of stuff. You go into the premise is like murdered children are in these like animatronic suits and they're trying to kill you. That's the basis. But it's like, well, how were they murdered? Why are they in there? Like, who was this purple guy that did it? What is this? Like, there's another purple guy in the game. Like, what's going on there? What bite? Like, they got bit. Like, what is it? It's insane. And I do like in the movie they kind of made it accessible for the movie audience by making it like he was aware of it through the dreams, like he was learning about the kids and his like dream world. I thought that was a good way of doing it because I don't really know how else. Well, they used Vanessa as a way to kind of be the lore giver, which she was the worst written character in that movie, in my opinion. But yeah, that was a really weird rant that kind of just went off the side. Like, so I know you said that you're like, the 10-minute lore video, I gave it like, yeah, there's lore videos I found. There's one that's 9 hours long. Like, it's a 9 hour lore. And I guarantee you, I will watch it and I will learn things I didn't know about it. Like, every single part of that will be crazy. So, like, before you got the lore video, you were not anybody that really had experience. Like, what, I know you didn't want to see the movie, but like, just from an idea of what you knew, did you think this could have been a good horror film from just like the basic stuff that you knew?
Well, I mean, so 2 years ago, there was a movie that came out called Willy's Wonderland, starring
Mm-hmm.
Nicolas Cage as a newly hired security guard at a rundown Chuck E. Cheese style animatronic place where the animatronics come to life and try to kill him. So I liked that, so I knew this could be something. It could work. It had happened before, and I bet the Five Nights at Freddy's fans either loved that or fucking despised it because it was like taking the spotlight away from their game here. But that was a hard R. Like that was a graphic, vicious movie. I always think horror works better when it's rated R because then there's no boundaries. You don't have to, there a character said, "Oh my goodness," in this movie. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
No.
It
What
couldn't be rated R though. There was no way this movie could have been rated R. Like not because it didn't have the material, but the primary audience, unfortunately, because of Markiplier and the Let's Players, are
well,
13-year-olds, 13 through like under 18. It can't be like, and I'm glad that they knew that because kids were going to go see it regardless, and then you're gonna have parents suing like, oh, you knew that the kids played this game and then you let them see blah 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 blah. Like it's about murdering children. Like it's really hard to make that PG-13, and they did it. I don't know.
no, you're right. You're right. The demographic is what counts. And clearly it paid off. I mean, on a $20 million budget in just 3 days, this thing has already made $130 million. Like
Yeah.
colossal hit. I was not expecting that. I thought this thing was going to come and go. Shows what I know. I've been wrong about that frequently. Um, but yeah, I bet this is going to be a franchise. There's 10 games worth of material to draw from for this. Um, yeah, it's not bad. It's just really weird. I thought the Freddy Bear, was going to be like the bad guy. I thought he was going to be. Oh my god!
I just showed Connor, for anybody that's familiar. I made masks for the movie that my friends and I wore from the Bite of 83 clip. Whenever the kid gets his like head bit by Fredbear, I made those masks that the kids were wearing, and I just jump scared Connor.
Well, I thought like the bad guy like is the yellow bunny, but shouldn't that have been Freddy? Wouldn't that have made more sense?
So again, this is why this was like people that are fans know, like we know it's not the animatronic, it's not Chica, Foxy, Bonnie, Freddy. The main bad guy is Springtrap William Afton because he's the one that killed the kids. He's the one that stuffed them in there. He killed them by dressing as the bunny and like luring them away. That's where I think the problem is and why I don't think it's going to be, and it's not popular with people that don't know anything about the games because there is a lot that relies off of your knowledge of it. Like you have to know who William, like I knew it was everybody, kind of, it wasn't great writing. So you knew that Matthew Lillard was going to be there. I knew it was going to be William Afton. Like we knew that going into it. People know who William Afton is. He's supposed to be British also, by the way. So like he's not British and that's fine. Also, Vanessa's not his daughter. That's somebody else. So like Vanessa's a real person. Matt Schmidt is a real person in the games. William Afton is a real person in the games. Freddie, Foxy, Chica, Bonnie, real characters. The daughter, the Abby, she's not in the games or whatever. That was just to help with that. And I think they used her really well. For that. And then like all those other like thug ruffians that they basically put in there to be murdered. Those are not in the game. But like Mike Schmidt is like a reoccurring character. William Afton, all of them are reoccurring. You would think if you've never seen the movie or if you've never played the games, yeah, it would be like these dudes that are the worst. But it's really William Afton, and they didn't talk about that enough. I don't think that's one of the things that I think they did bad in the sense for people that have never seen it is at the beginning you meet Matthew Lillard's character and whatever his name is, and he's just like, oh, I don't have a job for you. And then he sees the application. He's like, Mike Schmidt. And he like doesn't say anything. He's like, oh, like I do have a job for you. And then that's all you get. And he's like calling. He's like, I guess the guy just can't, bring himself to tear it down. Like that's alluding to it's him, but you don't hear anything else. You just see the pictures of the bunny. You don't see anything else about the bunny except for like the beginning opening credits. And it's like the little, like, 8-bit, the bunny taking everybody away, Springtrap doing all that. You don't see any of that. And then at the end, it's like, oh, surprise. He's actually like the worst bad guy. I think that wasn't great writing on their pack because you have to know the game to know that he ultimately is the bad one, and the children in the suits are pretty much just lost souls that are just trying to find their murderer and are trying to take revenge on him, and they think it's you because they can't remember what he looks like, so they're like, oh, like there's a person in power, we're gonna kill him. Also, yeah, like Mike Schmidt in the game is actually William Afton's son. So like that's another thing. Like he's supposed to actually be Afton's son, but he's not, right? In the movie, we didn't do that. They have a different thing. And that's for the movie thing, and that's fine because if you were to go into the you'd have to do so much. So it was fine what they did for this, but there's so much in the game. Yeah.
So with such a vast mythology, do you think this would translate better as like a series?
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I know they're gonna make this into more movies. I know they're gonna make because I think I don't remember what it was. I read something that was like they're for sure gonna do it, and it sold the case for me because they said the budget was what you said like 20 million,
Yep.
and through advertising and stuff alone, they had already made it all back, and the movie hadn't even opened yet. They're gonna make more. Like if this movie, if it made that much, this opening run. I mean, I'm out here in the Outer Banks of North Carolina right now. There's not a lot of people that live here permanently. The tourists are gone. That theater was packed. And the only people in that theater when I went at 9:30 was for the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. It was packed. The one before 7:30 was completely sold out. There are not that many people out here, which means pretty much every single kid in this area went to go see that movie the second night because we didn't go on Thursday when they did like the boat, the pre. I don't know why they say it opens on the 27th when they actually have like 3 showings on the 26th. That doesn't make sense. It's like Black Friday. We're going to start in the sale on Thursday. Like it's not Black Friday anymore. Anyway, yeah, like they're totally gonna make more. And I really hope that if they do or when they do, I'm sure it's already in production, already talking about it. I hope they take some of the not negative like awful criticism but like the fans that aren't yes man because a lot of the fans right now are like if you don't like it you just don't understand like no it's okay. You're allowed to be opinionated on it. You're allowed to say, I like this aspect, but not this other one. I hope they take maybe we should write it a little better so people that are unfamiliar with it can have a little bit more of an understanding. And they take that and they make like a really good sequel, like Shrek 2, like Shrek 1, good. Shrek 2, holy crap. Toy Story 1, good. Toy Story 2, fantastic. Like, I hope it's one of those where you're like, okay, like this was fine. The second one, though, like, ooh, and it doesn't go the other way. And you're like, oh, like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what, like Hunchback of Notre Dame, Hunchback of Notre Dame 2. Like, I hope it doesn't do that. I hope it goes the other way. And we have like How to Train Your Dragon 2. Like, I think DreamWorks does a good job at making sequels. I hope they do a DreamWorks sequel, not a Disney sequel. If that makes sense. Disney animation, not Pixar. I'm not counting Pixar, but like, 1990s Disney sequels. Bleh. Like, I don't want that. There's
I
potential.
I love that all your examples were kids movies. And
Yeah.
Toy Story 2 better than Toy Story 1. That's a discussion we're going to have.
I don't think it is, but it's a really good sequel. I think
is.
it's a really good sequel, and there's a lot of memory. Like I don't know, not necessarily that's a better one, but it's like it's there. It's I think a really comparable. I think they're great. And yeah, I did say kids movie because honestly, like this isn't a kids movie, but it kind of is
This is
because of
this
the
is
audience.
this is a kids horror movie, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my roommate and I went in knowing that we were not expecting, rated R slasher stuff because we knew it couldn't be. It's like I remember when Detective Pikachu came out, some of the older Pokemon fans were pissed that it was so kiddish, and we're like, who is the primary audience for Pokemon, dude? Like, not you. You were when you were a kid when it came out, a while ago, but like you're not the primary audience. And granted, honestly, the games, it's not for kids, but because of the Let's Players, because of Markiplier, because of Matt Pat, because of all these YouTubers, kids, they watch YouTube all the time. That's why this game is so popular. I'm glad that they knew that. And I think I think they did a good job making it for kids, which is why the younger audiences, people under 16, are like, oh, like this is the best thing in the entire world. And anybody that is like older is like, okay, like it was good visually, but here are my problems with it. Like I think everybody who's a fan of the game can agree it was a visually beautiful movie. But we're on the like, was it written well? I think it's the writing. I don't think it was written well, but
Well, that's a good segue into let's talk about the movie now, like the film itself.
Yeah.
What did we get? So there's a big disparity on Rotten Tomatoes between the critic and audience score of this movie, like phenomenally big. This is rocking a 25% critic score, 89% audience score. So the audience basically said, fuck you to the critics. We like this, which is always nice to see. So there, people did like it, and it's a success. It's Blumhouse has a new franchise on their hands. Um, so we follow Mike, this down on his luck security guard who lost his brother at a young age. His brother was kidnapped, and they never found him. It kind of destroyed his family, and he is now raising his younger sister Abby, who is and dealing with a custody battle with his like super like Cinderella evil stepmother style aunt, which was a little over the top, I thought. Like anyone who has a conversation with that woman can see that, like, yeah, she wants the check. And then that whole story just kind of fizzles out when Freddy shows up at their house and kills her, and no one ever brings it up again.
Actually, it was Fredbear, not Freddy. Get your lore right. Thank you.
Mistake. Fredbear killed Aunt Bitch, and no one ever really addresses all the murders.
No,
like
no, like they don't. The girl sees it and she's like, "What?" And he's like, "He's sleeping." She's like, "I hate that bitch anyway." Like,
even late at the end when like they're at the daycare center, the teacher's just like, "Oh, she's doing so well." No mention of like, so they found your aunt with her neck snapped in your house. Are we going to talk about that?
yeah, we know that you were dealing with some like custody issues. Like,
we
gotta take you into question. You're in questioning, bro. Like, you're the prime suspect, dude. Like,
you're going to prison.
The babysitter that was watching your daughter or your sister this whole time, she's gone, and so is her boyfriend and stuff. Like, and she was last seen with you. So, like, no, it's okay.
We found their like destroyed corpses in your place of business. Yeah. A lot of horror movies just kind of gloss over the murder and just kind of try to wrap it up in the end. And it always makes me laugh because I always have questions. But yeah, Mike can't hold a job down because his primary thing is lucid dreaming, which is kind of cool. He's trying to tap into his subconscious memories so he can try to remember the guy who took his brother, which is an odd. I wonder how much truth there is to that. Like the idea that everything we see is registered in our heads somewhere as a memory. And can we actively access that? That's a neat idea. And I don't know how. I would love to research that further because that would be really cool to do.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it. I again, like I said, I think at the beginning, I think that was a good way of getting him to kind of be like, "What's going on here? Like, why?" Start to question what's happening. I don't like that they had to use Vanessa to just be like, "This is what happened." And just be the plot giver pretty much because that's all she was. She was a plot giver, and I'm like, like that's annoying. But I like that dream aspect because that helped him to actually start like, like why are these kids showing up? And then his sister being like, oh, those are my friends. Like, oh, that's who you've been talking to. That's who you've been drawing pictures of. Like, I think they could have gone a little bit more into her friends and her be like, oh yeah, like I have 4 of them or 5 of them, and just like not like tell anything about it, but they could have had her say a little bit more about her friends because they what's it called? They alluded to the fact that was her friends who she's been talking about at the beginning, but like it wasn't like that was to me that was a stretch. Like, oh, so she just happened to know, I think it would have been a little bit better if she had said something earlier, or maybe drawn herself with like I want to watch it again to see if she was drawing 5 kids or seeing anything like that. But yeah.
For me, the biggest coincidence of this movie is like, so the guy that Mike goes to talk to about a security job is the guy who kidnapped his brother.
Right.
Like while his sister's dreams about these animatronics and the kids therein. I mean, that's a hell of that's some good luck for everybody involved in this story.
Right, as good luck for him. He's like, oh, I can finish off the murders. I'll just murder this guy, and then for him, like, I can find the guy who murdered my whatever, and again, that's not in the game. Like, that's not in the game at all. That's the movie taking their own liberties to try and get those 2 characters to meet. They could have done it in other ways, but like, a lot of movies don't make sense. You're like, oh wow, that's really coincidental that you happen to be there the night that you watched your dad get murdered or whatever. Like, but yeah, that is was a little too coincidental.
Well, also, again, with video game movies, like you got to figure out a way to condense all of that shit into a 2 hour adventure that's going to appeal to everybody. So I get that you had to just kind of move things along. I get that.
Yeah.
It's not the best writing. There were probably better ways to put all these characters together that would have made more sense, but whatever. That's not what we got. We got what we got. Um, I love when he just randomly goes after that guy in the mall and beats the shit out of him in the fountain. Like,
Uh-huh. You're like, huh?
like, I mean, I get that
And that
he's
also
got.
doesn't get touched on later on. It's just like, oh, okay.
I guess he dropped the charges.
Oh, you're looking for your dad's or your brother's murderer? It's all right. Okay.
Yeah, when you have trauma like that, you are allowed to just attack people in broad daylight with no repercussions. We all know that.
Yeah,
It's
that's
in
how
the
that works.
yeah, it's in the book. It's in the law book.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So Mike goes to talk to like unemployment, and Matthew Lillard, God bless him, love Matthew Lillard, is there, and he's like, "I got nothing for you." And then he looks at his name, and he's like, "Wait a minute, I killed a child with that name once." Because Schmidt is, a very unique name, as we all know, and decides, "Hey, you could be security guard at the pizza place I own." Yeah, uh, he did own it, right? That was his place.
I don't think he never said it in the movie. He didn't say, oh, he said the owner can't. He
Well, yeah,
kept saying the owner can't, but in the games, yes, not Mike Schmidt, William Afton created Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria with a business partner. So it was his place. And as far as I remember, the first game, it's still open. You're just the night watchman. It's like during the day, it's still open. It's not like destroyed or anything. It's game 4, I believe. 3 or 4. 3. 3, just kidding. It's game 3 that it's been closed and it's actually being used as a horror attraction. And then you're the night watchman at the gate at that place, making sure people don't break in. That's game 3. But game 1, it's still a pizza place, but you're just like just there at night.
that it's so crazy. Um, yeah, so yeah, he doesn't tell him straight up like he's the owner, but like later on we find out he owns Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Um, so he gives Mike the job. Mike goes to the job and sleeps on the job so he can access his dreams. Pretty good gig, frankly.
Yeah.
And he meets Vanessa, this cop who knows quite a lot about this place and doesn't really share that with him until it's way too late. Yeah, her whole character was kind of just there. I didn't really get the point of her. I mean, why is she a cop? Like, why? How come everybody was totally real quick to be on board with like, oh, ghost children are possessing these things? No one questioned that. They were like, okay, all right, go on.
I
No.
get what's like the kid, okay, like the kid, I put her aside because children are way easier for that stuff.
Yeah.
Her, just because she saw it happen, right? She was the daughter, okay, kind of. And then him, the only way I can say that that's justified is because he was dreaming about the 5 kids, because he didn't seem to believe it before. And then he put it together like, oh, like those are the 5 kids that have been visiting me. Huh, like maybe they're telling the truth kind of thing. It is still weird. Like it's a weird, that's why I like the franchise because it's unique. I've never heard a story like that before. Like dead children are, because Afton actually built the robots to like perfectly fit the size of a child's body, because he just decides to go on a murdering rampage. Because he actually, there's a lot. He kills one kid first to get revenge because his kid was killed. And then we then he's like, I'm just gonna go kill other kids. At least that's the theory, a game theory. And yeah, they just keep going.
Oh my god. Yeah, I this is the strangest. Okay. Um so Mike now gets on board with like, all right, these are ghost children, these are possessing the animatronics. I better build a fort and make these kids happy so they confess who killed my brother. Like, how do you write a movie like this? Jesus.
That was the
And
PG part. of the PG-13 movies, the fort building. And I love that scene. I was smiling the whole time. Like, this is so cute. Vanessa freaking ruined it. She ruined that scene. But like them, it was so cute. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry. I love that.
Uh, yeah, we learn about the little spring-loaded trap thing in the suits, which is going to come back later. And Mike has a dream. I'm skipping over a lot of stuff here because, frankly, it was just like I don't know. It's highlights. We're going.
A
We're
lot.
doing. Yeah, it's a lot. Um, he is visited by the kids in the dream. He's trying to still piece this together. But this time, the kids show him like, "Hey, this is what life could be when you're dreaming. Wouldn't you love to dream about your brother in a happy way? All you got to do is give us your sister." And he's pretty quick to be like, "Okay," but then he's like, "Wait a minute, no, that would be wrong. No, I don't want to do that." And now he's got to go save Abby from the ghosts of children being controlled by the yellow rabbit man. What is it sounds so fucking insane.
Yeah, it sounds like an acid trip.
It really does. Talking about it,
The
I'm
yellow
like,
ass, the yellow rabbit man. He's doing it. He's controlling everybody, which he does control people in the 10th game.
of course it does.
That's also where the name Vanessa comes from, is the 10th game.
Uh, so he goes, yeah. So he calls Aunt whatever, I don't remember her name, and says, "I need a favor." And weirdly, she agrees to babysit. I thought, like, wasn't I mean, she hired people to break into his place of business to frame him for vandalism and get him fired, but she'll babysit for a night.
Also, those people like never reported back to her, so she also doesn't care that like all four of them, three of them just like appeared in that one scene at the coffee shop or whatever, and then everybody else just like, oh, like she's like, whatever, yeah, they're just gone. Cool, I'll babysit. Like
And
nobody
Mike
cares that people are disappearing.
Mike never follows up on his babysitter just vanishing.
Uh-huh.
It is,
Just
yeah, it's
just ghosted him pretty much to him. He's just like, damn, what a bitch.
weird. Oh, yeah, and one of the fat, what was his name again? The one who kills the ant.
Fred Bear.
Fred Bear. Yes.
Yeah, Fred
Fred
Bear,
Bear.
Golden Freddy.
He shows up, kills Ant, and takes Abby in a taxi to.
That was another YouTuber, was the one driving.
Okay, because that guy
I
was
don't
just
know which. Yeah.
How did they pay for that? Quarters?
Yeah, he was just totally just like the big animatronic gets in. He was just like, damn, I always get the weird ones. Anyway, like that
Didn't
probably
feel.
though, if they're being controlled, maybe William Afton was controlling the taxi driver. Woo. You will give them a ride to the Pizzaplex.
I'm just picturing him giving like Fred Bear like, "Here's taxi fare. Make sure
Give
you
it to
tip."
the man. I might need this again.
Get his card. Yeah, that's whatever. It's yeah. So Abby goes to the pizza place. First Mike gets attacked in the dream world, and as we all know from the Matrix, when you get attacked, when you get hurt when you're dreaming, you get hurt for real. So Vanessa finds him and patches him up at a police outpost. She has no partner, which is kind of weird for a cop.
It makes me wonder if she actually is a cop, because at the end, they get all like dump in there just to be like, and I'm your dad, and I told you knew what happened, and I told you to get them killed and to whatever. I wonder if she wasn't actually a cop and she just like had the stuff to like try and get him to trust her, because William Afton was telling her like the whole plan was for you to get them to be here and get killed. That was the plan. You weren't listening, and I blah 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 kind of a thing. So I wonder if maybe she's not actually a cop, because you're right. Like, why doesn't she have a partner? Why is she always able just to like go to that place and never have like a call or anything? Like, where did these four people go? I'm still looking for my daughter. She used to babysit, and her boyfriend also isn't answering the phone, and they're just gone now. Like, and she was just so easy, like, oh hey, like what are these drugs, bro? And she's like, whatever. And just like throws them when he's like, oh, like my brother was taken and I have them to help me find him. And she's like, all right, cool. Like, got him.
I think the biggest
Bad
evidence
cop. Like if she's a cop, that's a bad cop.
I think the biggest evidence that she's not a cop is at the end of the movie when she's she gets stabbed in the gut and she's in a coma on life support or whatever, and no one else is in that room. Like if a cop got mortally wounded like that, there would be nothing but cops in that room trying to find out who did that. So no, she's not a
Or
cop.
there'd at least be like a lot of flowers from like the department that are like, get well soon, new recruit, 2758 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So they want to make Abby into an animatronic thing. So they have that weird like mask with the knives thing they keep strapping people into. What was the deal
Yeah,
with
that's not
that?
in the game either. It's not in the game. It's cool, but it's not in the game. I thought that was a cool way of doing it because in the game they tell you in the first one if the animatronics are like they're like walking around, they see people and they're like, oh, you must be an endoskeleton, like the inner part of it that like the robot part that's creepy that just doesn't have its suit on. So they're gonna try and force you into one of the suits. Um, I think it's because a lot of those suits are spring locked that if you were to go in it would just bah, and it would like kill you, so that's what would happen. You'd be forced into it, but it's not said that it's like a bunch of saws that like in your face or whatever. It's a cool concept. I really like it. Same thing with like the cupcake just being like murdering. The cupcake doesn't move as far as I know, like in the games. Like it's like there in like the back, but I don't remember it ever being like a thing that you have to go against because there's a game called Ultimate Custom Night where you go against every single mob in the game. So all the different versions of Freddy, because there's like a lot of versions of each of these characters, because each game it's different characters or whatever. So all the different versions of Freddy, all the different versions of Bunny, Chica, Foxy, Mangle, Circus Baby, like the balloon boy that kept showing up. That was another one that's like, if you know the game, the balloon thing was hilarious because you're like, oh, because he just shows up and he does nothing. He's just annoying as shit. You're like, get away. Like, stop distracting me. We're trying to figure out like where to point and click and stuff. Yeah. The and that's another thing too. They're not like trying to kill kids. Like the kids are not trying to kill kids themselves. One of the animatronics, not in this movie or whatever, but in another game, her design is to kill children because she was created after William Afton goes crazy and wants to start murdering more kids. So that's like her purpose. If she was in the movie trying it, that would make sense. But she wasn't in this movie. It was just the original four, or I guess five, because you have Golden Freddy in there, Fredbear. Yeah, none of them are like trying to murder. The only person that murders kids at this point is William Afton, and like, yeah, it's because like throughout the yeah, I don't know, it's a weird way of trying to make it into a movie and make it a horror movie, and like the kid has to be in danger. I think they could have made it where William Afton was gonna try and kill her. Why are they trying to not like? Because I know he like if he's controlling them, I guess technically he was if they're trying to make the bunny more, Springtrap more in the movie, so you're not just like, what? Like, where did this thing come from? He's really the bad guy. If she would have pictured him and was like, I like them, but like Bonnie creeps me out a little bit because he reminds me of this other one that's like in my dreams, or they told me about this other, and I'm scared of the bunny. And she keeps talking about they could have done it better. Again, writing is what my problem was.
Yeah. I think they counted on the IP being so recognizable that frankly they didn't really have to try that hard in terms of story and character development. Uh so Abby's at the pizza place. Uh Mike and Vanessa, well, Mike goes to the pizza place. He tells Vanessa, help me out. And she's like, I can't. It's my father. He's the yellow rabbit. And I can't do anything about that. So Mike's like, all right. And he goes and confronts the yellow rabbit who shows up. And lo and behold, it's Matthew Lillard. I got to say, I did not see that coming.
Oh, you didn't think that he was going to be the
Well,
okay, so that's good. I'm that's was it like stupid or were you like, oh, kind of a thing?
it saved the movie, frankly, for me.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Okay.
So, as a lifelong Scream fan, I've been waiting for oh my God, Matthew Lillard's alive kind of thing. And I finally got it. So yeah, I'll take it. It's not in Scream. He's Stu's probably dead, but I got my Matthew Lillard reveal, and I will take it. And I love Matthew Lillard is such an underrated character actor who always delivers. He hams it up. He's great. And yeah, I loved him as just this unapologetic child killer in a yellow bunny suit. And is it just me, or can Abby draw insanely fast?
She can. Yeah, that was wild. That made me laugh. How it was just like, oh, I know she's gonna put the thing up and just be like, bah! Like the pictures, what's gonna make them remember because kids think through pictures. She drew that fast and she drew it well, and was just like, yeah, like I can draw a knife and like children dying, bah, bah, bah. Like
And
you
she
drew that
colored it.
fast, kid.
She colored
Yeah,
it too.
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't think she drew like she used colors to color it, so it wasn't like how most adults do it, where we're boring and we start with pencil because we want to make sure we don't mess up and whatever. She's just like do crayon. Like also, they happen to have crayons and stuff there still, even though kids haven't been drawing pictures for that place in a while.
Yeah. It was a bit like, okay. Like while Afton was strangling Vanessa, Abby was over there coloring that picture. Like it was very fast. And then that's all it took. The animatronics are like, wait a minute, that guy. And they turned on him. They spring loaded him. He started getting his ribs crushed in, and the place started falling apart for some reason. Uh, didn't quite really get where that came from. Uh, and all is well because
This
Afton's just
scene
kind of rotting or he's getting like tortured forever in the back room, I guess.
and that is part of that is absolutely that is my roommate and I were shocked that they actually put that scene in this movie, not because it was like, well, it was a little, it was probably one of the gorier things because it actually goes, bah, like in him is a little insane, but that's in game 3 that you learn about that happening. Game 2 kind of starts to set up. There's some like weird thing that weird person that's murdering people. Game 3 goes into it's that same dude that's been murdering kids that murdered the original 5. He's at some point he goes back and he starts being haunted by those kids in the game. He's haunted by them and he's actually getting scared. He's like, oh my God, like they're haunting me. So he puts himself back in the springlock suit, the one that he's in, the bunny suit, to try. He's like, well, I scared them and killed them before. I'm gonna scare them away by being the thing that killed them. And he's like, oh, look at me, like I'm so smart, ha ha ha. In the game, it basically tells you that the spring locks activate based off of moisture. So if it's really wet, or if you're crying, or if you're laughing a lot and there's just a lot of moisture, he's laughing in the game. He's like, ha ha ha, look at me, I'm so smart. And then you watch as his character just and like blood just spurts out of it and he just falls and dies. But he's not actually dead, and he's gonna be there for like 30 years. And then Five Nights at Freddy's, that's when Five Nights at Freddy's 3 is actually taking place. So you're seeing why this dude is in there, and he basically rots and becomes a part of Springlock. And he's now like the kids. He's trapped in that suit. He can't get out, and he's still trying to murder people. And it's wild. Like he's a really good like freaky thing. Also, the way that they show you all this happening is the games themselves are like 3D animation, right? CGI and stuff like that. The lore and all that usually is through 8-bit animation. So it's 8-bit kind of 80s stuff with weird noises that make you uncomfortable, like Atari kind of sounding. It's like that. So you see that happen. It's a little 8-bit version of him who's like, ha ha ha, and this and it like the noise and then that's where the meme is that the bite of 87. If you've ever seen Markiplier say that, that's where that comes from, is him watching that bit of lore happen in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. And oh no, that it wasn't. I'm sorry. That was not 3. That was a different one. Either way, like it's the Bite of 87 8-bit stuff. All of it is 8-bit. That's not where that comes from. But still, there's a lot.
I
There's a lot.
I have only watched Markiplier's Try Not to Laugh challenges. That is all I've watched of his.
That's okay.
They're funny. Uh,
Mark
I,
say funny thing.
uh, in the end, Mike and Abby reconcile. Things are going well. Abby seems completely unaffected by this absolute traumatic series of events. Daycare center lady asks no follow-up questions about the lawsuit or all the people Mike knows who've disappeared lately. There's no cops asking any questions. And things are going to be fine, or at least until Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Yeah, three out of 5 stars, I guess. Matthew Lillard really helped that along. It's a decent story. I would have liked it to have gone farther, but again, I get, it's got to be PG-13 to appeal to the 12-year-old watching Markiplier scream at the computer screen.
And
I
he
guess.
wasn't in the movie, which made it even worse.
I know you were
I
really
was so
counting on them.
Yes, because like I said, Markiplier made Five Nights at Freddy's. Five Nights at Freddy's made Markiplier. Apparently, he said that he wasn't going to be in it. Like there was a thing that was released that said he wasn't. I was calling it fake news because he does that sometimes. So I was like, no way. Like he's the best. My roommate knows, or my roommate was telling me that he's apparently working on directing his own movie right now. So he's like working on a directing gig, and he legit like just did not have a thing that could do that could work out where he could be in it. Which is fine. Matt Pat was in it, so that was cool, I guess. And I know you're like, where was he in the movie? He was in the diner scene. He was the guy taking their order, and they're like, we don't want food. And he's like, what? Really?
Uh-huh.
You're like, you're not breakfast is the most important thing of the day. And he's like, but that's just a theory. And he just like walks away, and it's like, oh, oh,
That was
like,
Matt Pat. Oh my God, I didn't catch that.
yeah, that's Matt Pat,
That's
which was
cool.
cool. I did appreciate that about the movie. I know Mark wasn't in it. Mark would have been in it if he could have, but I appreciate that they understood the people that helped make this franchise what it is. They put Matt Pat in there. I don't know who the other guy was, the guy in the driving the taxi. I know he's a YouTuber. I've never seen any of his content before, but they put him in there. And then the credits, the song that they play at the credits, that was not an original song for the movie. That was by an artist named The Living Tombstone, who has made a song for every game that's come out anytime the games come out. That was the original song he made for the franchise. So when I heard like the beginning, I was like, holy shit, like they're playing the Living Tombstone Five Nights at Freddy's like one song. I was really that was really cool because those artists are why this game is popular. When you don't have the content creation, you don't have the fan stuff, that's especially with video games, that's really what revolves around video games. You get what you get in the one game, but the world that the fans create is really what sells that for people. That's why people get so into some of these, franchise. That's why I got into it. Like every 12-year-old, I never played it. I watched Markiplier play it. I still watch Markiplier play it because I am a weenie. I can't do it. But I have fun watching, funny man say funny thing go through the games, and then I have fun looking at fan art and like watching like fun fan animations where people make their own stories and animate their own like 10-minute movie, and so it's really cool. And then just the lore is insane, so I appreciate that the movie actually put content creators in it, recognizing like you're the reason why this is a movie. This would not be a movie if it wasn't for you guys, and I thought that was cool. And then also at the very, they didn't have like they had the balloon boy thing that wasn't really like a allusion to any new movie, but the very end of it, like if you, I don't know if you watched through the whole credit reel. I doubt you did if you were not in the theaters. But the very end, if anybody did, you hear like. Like you hear noises like that, like it's letters that are being said. That's from the second game. That whenever you're looking at the little like lore 8-bit things, it was spelling out the word, it was spelling out "come find me" at the very end. So like there was no post credit scene technically, but at the very like at the like we're getting to like no animals were harmed, and this was filmed in I don't even remember what state it was. Louisiana is Louisiana, and then I think part of Canada is where it was filmed. It was spelling "come find me," and it's like ooh, that's kind of crazy. Another thing that they did really good is the kid that was the pissiest was the one in the Fredbear suit. That's accurate to the game. The Golden Freddy kid is the pissiest one. The other four are cool, but Golden Freddy, like that kid, he's the one that's like, no, like I'm not cool that we had him, or that he like died in the suit, because I think that the whole thing, he's not cool that he's still out for like murder and revenge. He's mad that he was killed. The other ones are mad too, but like he's the maddest. I think they did a good job making that like the leader of them all, even if they didn't show him very much, but like I thought that was good.
I'm glad. I'm happy. I'm glad. I like seeing how excited you are about this. It's
Oh, it's great.
balancing out my apathy very well.
Oh, and that's okay. Yeah, like I figured, you sing it. I figured you weren't gonna like it. I figured you were gonna be here and you're gonna be like, this was shit. So that actually made me happy to hear that you were like, it was cool to see the like William Afton, like, oh, like that kind of reveal. Like that was, I liked hearing that. That makes me happy. I'm also glad that they did practical effects for this. I think the fact that they used actual suits with actual people made it way better. It was so cool. Like, I almost, this is stupid, but I almost cried when they first showed them on the stage and they were doing like the little burner, and like Freddie was like singing and stuff. It's like, oh my God, like they're actually like they're moving. It was so cool. And then when she hugged him and stuff, like I'm hugging him through that child right now. Like I love you guys so much. Like that is so cute. And then at the end, I can say so much more. I know we were like, this is a shorter podcast. Last thing for sure that I want to say, when you said, why does like the building like collapse and William Afton like, gets and they start taking him away, that hardcore pulled Danny DeVito penguin death when he dies and then the penguins like carry him away. I was watching that. I was like, oh my God, it's Danny DeVito penguin death. Like they're carrying him away. I love that. And like the Arctic world is collapsing for some reason. Well, not for some reason, because the penguins, the little like they didn't have the rockets strapped to the animatronics, but that was Danny DeVito penguin death.
That's fantastic.
Five Nights at Freddy's version.
I think in a year where, I mean, so this year, every Disney movie has flopped. Good. Several Marvel movies have flopped. Every DC movie has flopped. Mission Impossible didn't do that great.
Oh.
But Five Nights at Freddy's exploded.
We're in the correct timeline.
It's just so surreal. I never would have thought. If like in January, if you told me like here's the lineup for the year, tell me the most successful films of the year, I wouldn't have even looked at this.
And also Barbie.
Yeah. Barbie also like, I don't think so. Here we are. Yeah, people are very open and aware of what they want this year, and I think that's great. So next week we get Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, biopic of Elvis's wife Priscilla Presley and how she handled marriage to Elvis and at a young age and all that jazz. It's getting really good reviews. I highly doubt there's going to be a first thoughts on this because no one on the team wants to go see Priscilla except me. So fine. It's fine. We'll be back the following week with the Marvels. Hopefully does not tank. Hopefully it's good. God knows Marvel could use a win right now. We'll also have the Killer and Dream scenario potentially. So that's in a couple weeks. In the meantime, you know the drill. Take it easy. Keep watching movies, and we'll see you next time.